Hello, my name is Catherine Rose, and today I'll be discussing the Agarwal Automobiles case study and deciding which forecasting method works best for their new business model. Kenneth Kahn's framework for forecasting provides three main approaches: qualitative, quantitative, judgmental. Qualitative is more subjective, using less data, and puts an emphasis on expert knowledge, market research, and consumer feedback, while quantitative is data-driven, using a lot of historical data and does statistical modeling like time series model, moving average, and exponential smoothing, which is what we're going to use in this case study. Judgmental is a combination of both qualitative and quantitative methods, using expert insights such as the Delphi method to refine their data-driven approaches. So in choosing a forecasting approach, it should be aligned with the company's business goals. So it's always going to vary from company to company on how they choose to forecast their demand. Qualitative forecasting is used when demand is limited. So industries like healthcare, tech, and consumer goods are going to rely on expert opinions and market insight, especially for new product launches or innovation. Quantitative is data-driven, which relies on historical trends. So companies like Amazon, Costco, and Walmart are going to use it for inventory, logistics, and demand planning, since they have such large data sets. Judgmental forecasting blends data with expert judgment, so firms like Boeing, Airbus, Zara, and Goldman Sachs use this when decisions involve uncertainty or complex variables that are not easily captured in the models. So Agarwal Automobiles does have a significant amount of historical sales data, which makes it a good candidate for quantitative forecasting. I'll justify my decision by applying models like moving average and exponential smoothing and test their accuracy using the mean absolute percentage error, with a goal to help Agarwal achieve improved forecast accuracy, which will lead to better inventory and production planning. So the different forecasting methods that I will use are moving average, which is simple but doesn't handle seasonality; exponential smoothing, which adapts to recent changes but can lag behind with demand shifts; double exponential smoothing, which will capture trends effectively but won't handle seasonality; and triple exponential smoothing, which does capture trends and seasonality, but it's more complex and requires a significant amount of data. So for this case, after I calculated each of the models, moving average, exponential smoothing, and double exponential smoothing, I reviewed the mean absolute percentage error. The lower the mean absolute percentage error, the better the accuracy of the forecast. So now that I have my results, I sampled each of the models and have an overview of each of the fuel types and their best forecasting model. So for petrol, the lowest mean percentage errors were the 10 and 14 day moving average, the 0.20 alpha of exponential smoothing, and the 0.15 alpha and 0.16 beta of double exponential smoothing. For diesel, the lowest mean absolute percentage error is the 21 day moving average, the 0.20 alpha of exponential smoothing, and the 0.30 and 0.30 alpha and 0.33 beta of double exponential smoothing. And then finally for HSP, the best moving average is 2 days, 0.75 alpha for exponential smoothing, and 0.33 alpha and 0.41 beta of double exponential smoothing. Overall, based on my calculations and the data as it presented, I think the forecasting method for each fuel type is as follows. For petrol, because both methods gave the lowest MAPE at 11.2%, exponential smoothing or moving average are the best forecasting methods. For diesel, the best method I found was moving average, which gave the lowest percentage error at 22.2%. And then for HSP, I found exponential smoothing to be the best method, which gave the lowest error at 40.8%. So when planning for demand, it's important to recognize that forecasting models alone are not enough. There are several external factors, long-term and short-term, that will influence business performance beyond what historical data can predict. So long-term factors like technological advancements, which are electric vehicle innovations or automation, those can disrupt demand patterns. Consumer preferences, like moving towards electric vehicles, will not be captured. Sustainability goals, so companies aim to reduce their environmental impact, so they may change their practices, which will in fact impact demand or the supply chain. And then the long-term strategic goals of a company, such as like entering new markets or rebranding, will shape future demand independently past the historical trends. For the short term, the environment is more volatile. Climate-related disasters, which are part of the current world events, like wars and pandemics, can cause sudden disruptions. The political climate, as we're seeing now, with elections and tariffs and trade agreements, can impact sourcing and sales. Regulatory changes, which can quickly change what can and cannot be sold. And then, of course, the supply chain interruptions and transportation bottlenecks, like port congestion and material shortages, all will affect inventory and availability regardless of demand forecasts. And all of these factors should be taken into consideration outside of statistical forecasting. So while forecasting models provide a valuable baseline, there are still situations where these external factors need to override the numbers. Major disruptions, such as geopolitical conflict, natural disasters, will cause the historical patterns found in the data to lose their relevance. New product launches and market entry need to rely more on judgmental and qualitative inputs because there is no historical sales data. And then for supply chain constraints, supply limitations like material delays and product availability impact what a company can deliver. So planning has to focus on allocation and substitution strategies. So overall, using forecasting methods can be a starting point, but good forecasters don't just crunch numbers, they connect them to real-world dynamics. Thank you.